Okay, so we have a few minutes left. I thought we could do some Q&A, or at least the Q part. I don't know about the A part. So, yeah, please raise your hand or write down your questions and pass it up. Here's one.
Thank you. When we say anger destroys virtues, does that anger includes the very minor anger like unhappiness, irritation, or is it the more stronger type of anger?
Well, you know, I think it really, the anger that's going to destroy the merit is going to be, the stronger the anger, the more destruction of the merits is going to be. I think the small irritation and frustration may not, I don't know, I cannot give you the percentage of, you know, anger versus merit to do that. But, you know, I think just common sense, the stronger your anger, the more obstruction it causes. Okay.
I have a question about the practice of Christianity and Buddhism. Mm-hmm. So you had talked about sin, mm-hmm. and you had also talked about doubt, that if we have doubt, if enlightenment is possible. And I know His Holiness the Dalai Lama says that you can use Buddhism to practice your religion, if you have one, to be a better Christian, if you have mm-hmm. one. He has said that in the mm-hmm. past. But it's something I wonder about if you are someone who does believe in the existence of God, mm-hmm. and at the same time find Buddhist principles and Dharma very, very helpful. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to hear what your,
okay.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so what His Holiness means is there's so many teachings in the Dharma that are basic common sense that don't depend on any kind of specific theology, like how to work with anger, subdue attachment, the whole thing we talked about this morning. You can apply any of those teachings to help you with your mind and to calm the mind and to see things clearly. So that's what he meant, and especially the teachings for developing love and compassion. You know, anybody can practice those. Yeah. And that's why His Holiness so often says, my religion is kindness. And theology is something that is given to convince people to be kind, you know? So, but he also says that if you reach a certain point, you know, so you can use Buddhist techniques when you're a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim or no religion at all. But there comes a certain point, if you're following the Buddhist path, where you have to decide regarding the ultimate nature. And you know, is it empty of inherent existence, or is there something, a true existence? Is there a God that created the universe and sends people to heaven and hell? So there's at a point where you would have to decide upon that. But until you reach that, but all the other things to work with your emotions and develop good qualities, those can be practiced, whatever your belief system is. Does that make some sense to you? Yeah? Mm-hmm.
May I ask a question related to anger?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would like to know, they say patience is the antidote to anger.
If what is?
Patience.
Patience.
Could you please explain, like, patience in the English sense, or?
Yeah. Okay. So the term that's being translated is zopa. And in Shantideva's text, it was translated as patience. Personally speaking, I don't think that is a good translation. Because when I hear the word patience, I think of you have to wait for somebody. You know, they're late, so somebody says, be patient. That kind of patience you know, sitting there, yeah, I'm waiting for my anger to go away. I'm waiting for you to realize I was right in the argument and you were wrong. You know, that's not what meant. So I actually translate that term as fortitude, because fortitude means that you have some inner strength. You're not just sitting there waiting for something to happen. You have inner strength, so even somebody insults you or criticizes you, you don't get all whacked out and like, oh, I'm so terrible, they criticize me, they don't love me anymore. You know, you have your own inner strength, so you don't take stuff like that so seriously. Or when you get sick, you don't get angry and feel sorry for yourself. You have inner strength. You can deal with the sickness, okay? And then the third kind of patience has to do with practicing the Dharma. And, you know, because sometimes when you're practicing the Dharma, you hear things that your ego really reacts against. Yeah? And your ego goes, no, it's not like that. I'm right. And, and you have to have inner fortitude to be able to see with clarity, you know, the truth of the teachings and apply them without just letting ego and doubt run the show. Okay, so I prefer the word fortitude. Mm-hmm.
You also mentioned that in daily life we need to practice so that when the actual anger comes, we can catch the spark first before the fire.
Yeah.
The question is, if I practice it, but I'm not feeling angry when I'm doing the practice, how do I do like a mock stimulation? If I'm supposed to...
Yeah, you call somebody in the room and say, okay, call me names. No. What you can, there's different ways to do that. One thing is to go back, remember situations that you've experienced where you really lost it and got completely angry. And remember those situations and what somebody said to you and how your mind was perceiving what the story you were telling yourself. And then look at that story and see how it was incorrect. Yeah, and so seeing how it's incorrect, you would use a lot of the antidotes, okay? For example, oh, that person just wants to be happy, they're confused about how to be happy, so they said that to me. But it really has nothing to do with me, what they said. It has everything to do with their unhappiness. So I don't need to get angry and upset about it, yeah? And so if it's a situation that you had encountered in the past, this can be really helpful to replay it, only now your thoughts and your speech and your actions are without anger. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is sometimes we imagine situations in which people are going to be mean to us. Nothing has happened, yeah, but we're just like, oh, you know, I know my friend's gonna turn on me. I know they're just gonna, you know, get angry over some little thing, and then this friendship is gonna go away, and I'm so angry, you know, because here it's gonna happen again. It's happened to me in the past, it's gonna happen again. So nothing's actually happened, but your mind is already getting upset. So use that situation in your meditation, and then bring in one of the antidotes for anger, and think about that situation using that antidote. You know, oh, okay, you know, a friend is going to break up the relationship without any good reason. Well, why is that happening to me? Well, sometimes I've broken up relationships without many good reasons, and I've been really mean and cruel to other people. So if that happens here, then there's no reason for me to get angry. I should just realize, you know, I gave that energy out to the universe, now it's coming back to me. And then that will help you not be so afraid of somebody saying something mean to you or whatever. Okay? Yeah. So meditating like that is really quite helpful. And if you do it a lot, you'll see a change in your attitude. And you don't get angry as often. Or if you do, you know, you can remember that antidote because you've practiced it so much in your meditation. So you remember it, you can think of it, you know, closer to the time the situation happened and calm your mind. Okay.
I don't know if I have a question as much as a, I suppose, comment. But I'm finding it really disappointing to learn how much anger there is, because every time I get angry or reflect on it, I realize how much merit I've just burned up. And that's really disappointing. Well, it is.
Yeah.
And there's something not very satisfying about, as last night, learning all the things I'm not and all the things I am, and yet I keep coming back. So I don't know if there's any comment there.
It's not that you burn up every single amount of merit you've created for the last 50,002 eons, okay? It's just, you know, some merit gets burnt up. So, you know, just be aware of that, because it helps you control the temper, but you don't need to be paralyzed by that, okay? Yeah.
Hi, Venerable. Based on my memory and then also paraphrasing what I think a nine of teaching mentioned, like they prioritize wisdom and saying that wisdom will give rise to compassion, and also saying that like methods such as, not that they are not good, like chanting, prostration, all these things are the means to an end, and the end is to know the mind, because the key is to notice what is arising, what persists and passes away. That is the key to kind of like get closer to knowing what reality is. And therefore, I wonder if, let's say, we are repetitively doing different methods but without gaining the wisdom, then could it then be maybe counterintuitive? Like, because it's like getting away from maybe the true aim is to know the ultimate reality.
I think that the wisdom side and the devotional practices can go together, because the wisdom side is very important, and you're right, that's the thing that's actually going to cut the ignorance. But we have to make our mind a suitable vessel to really hear and understand those teachings, okay? Because there's a difference between a mind that is just sitting in the room and taking in the sound, and a mind of someone sitting in the room but understanding what's being said. And so the analogy is often like our mind is like a field, and when we hear teachings, we're planting seeds in it. But the seeds, when you plant seeds in a regular field, you have to take out the pieces of glass and the garbage and all that kind of stuff. And then you need to fertilize it and put water and get the temperature right. So the field's like our mind. The teachings are like the seeds. Clearing out the garbage is purification practice. Adding fertilizer, water, and getting the temperature right, that's like creating merit. You're adding something to the field to make it more fertile. So, because sometimes we may be very deep in our studies and then our mind is just stuck. You know, you're sitting there reading something and thinking about it, and you know that you're not getting it. Yeah, and your mind is just stuck. At that time, it can be very good to do the devotional kind of practices and create, purify the mind, create merit, things like that, because that makes the mind more flexible, more receptive. Then if you go back to your studies, it's easier to understand. Okay?
Sounds like devotional practice to increase like the faith, and then, right?
It increases your faith, yeah. It's not blind faith. We're not trying to increase blind faith. Blind faith is not very useful, okay? But when you do the practices, like when you're doing this, and you think of Tara, and you think, the 8 dangers that we talked about this morning, and you think, she's conquered those, so she doesn't have those problems in her mind. Then you become more aware of Buddha's qualities that makes arise what we call admiring faith. And then when you reflect on the teachings in the verses about how to think to generate those qualities, that you begin to have convictional faith that's based on understanding, and you begin to have admiring faith that admires Tara's qualities. And when you admire the Buddha and you know what the qualities are, then you want to develop them, and you know that there's a reliable method to practice to develop them. Okay, so faith is very helpful in that way. It's not blind faith. It depends on understanding and knowledge. Okay.
Hi, Venerable. Earlier we talked about one case, there was the drug abuse case for the 8 dangers. So I just want to know that for a long-term drug offender or a drug addict, how will you advise someone on how to walk away from something like that, which they have done their whole life?
Your whole life, since you were a baby?
No, as in for those people who are long-term drug offenders?
Yeah. Then I think it's very helpful to enroll in a program, yeah, an addiction program. There's many programs around, and when you're in a program, you have professional people who know how to help you stop that craving for the drugs and fulfill your needs in other ways. And you also are with a group of people who have the same problem. So you reinforce each other and help each other. So, for example, well, there's formal programs where you can be a resident and stay in a facility, but there's also things like Alcohol Anonymous, or, there's things like that for drugs, not just alcohol. And there you have a buddy, and your buddy checks up on you, and you report back, and so you have the support of other people who really understand what you're going through and who really want to help you succeed in being drug and alcohol free. So those programs are very good. And then, you couple that with your meditation practice, because your meditation practice you can use to when you really look deeply and you see, well, why am I using drugs or alcohol? What is it that I'm trying to say, or what is it I'm trying to accomplish by doing that? And so you have to look deeply inside yourself and really think, you know, what is the reason? Is it my friends are all doing it and I want to belong? I want to be part of a group. I want to have friends. Is it feelings of loneliness? So you want to block out the feelings of loneliness? You know, you have to look inside and see what it is that you want. And then your meditation practice and your Dharma, you know, coming to the Dharma center and all, can also act as another reinforcement in addition to the program to help you overcome the addiction.
Thank you for your teaching. My question pertains to what you said just a few minutes ago about reflecting on how if we're in a situation, and you said something like reflecting on how people might say something that might catalyze our anger. And then when we reflect on it and consider that maybe there's nothing truthful about it and therefore we don't get angry. So what's puzzling me is the intersection between I don't think you're right, I think I'm right, and therefore I'm not going to be angry. But there's also that element of arrogance.
Yeah, then when you say, oh, I'm not going to be angry, you're still angry. Just saying I'm not going to be angry doesn't make it go away. But just saying that makes you arrogant. You know, it's like, oh, I'm beyond anger because I'm right and you're wrong and you're not worthwhile. You know, you haven't solved the problem with your anger. What we've done is added some arrogance to it. Okay, so you really have to look at, you know, why is this bothering me? What, you know, what is it? Why is the idea of somebody thinking that about me or saying that to me so unnerving that I just, you know, it hasn't even happened yet, and yet I'm furious. Why? Why do I feel threatened? What's my button that's getting pushed? Yeah, and then you look inside. Yeah, what's the button? And, you know, maybe your mind says, you know, I want everybody to like me. I don't want them to be angry. Or in another situation, your mind might say, I've done so much for that person and they aren't reciprocating. Yeah. So it depends very much on the situation. But you look inside and know, why is that really bothering me? Or it could be, I have so much to do and that person is chattering about something that's not so important. And then you say to yourself, okay, why does that bother me? Yeah? Well, you take that last example. Well, I need to accomplish something. And they're just going on and on and on about some stupid adagio about, you know, did you see that character in the movie? And, you know, or what's the latest fashion? Or who knows what. And you say, I don't want to listen to that. I have something I need to do. Well, why does it bother me that they're taking up my time? Well, I just want them to go away. Well, you know, I can say very politely to somebody without being angry, you know, I have some things that are important I need to do, so I have to go now. And you stop the conversation and you go do what you need to do. You don't need to sit there and like, God, I wish that person would shut up already. You know, you can just say something nice and solve the problem. You know what I find fascinating is so many people say, give me some situation, you know, long explanation. He said and she said, and then he did this and they do that. And, you know, 2 hours later, they say, well, what do I do? As if I'm supposed to know. You know? But, you know, but there's often people know what they need to do, but they're afraid to do it. You know, it's like, well, if I tell that person I have something important I need to do and this isn't a good time for me to talk, then they're going to get mad at me, madder than me before. They won't like me. Then they'll tell all of my friends how terrible and rude I am. We make up some big story. Whereas in many situations, all you need to do is say what's true in a nice voice. And it's no big deal. Yeah? I find myself so often when people come out, what do I do? What do I? Well, you know, what do you think would solve the problem? That, oh, but I can't say that. But you can, you know, you don't say, oh, you're a jerk, you know. Go away, you're just a jerk. I have better things to do with my time. But you just, yeah, you get what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or somebody wants you to get involved in some horrible business deal that you know is phony baloney, and you don't want to get involved in it, but you feel pressured by them to get involved, and if you don't give them your money and invest, then they're going to get mad at you because you think that they will think you're unappreciative. You go a little bit crazy with that one. You know, I think, they think. Everybody's looking at her. She asked a question, nobody's listening to the answer. Yeah? Look how easily you are distracted. The question is interesting. You're interested. But somebody moves their arm or moves the microphone. You know? And the answer, you know, just goes right by you. You know, how you need to stay focused on what you're paying attention to, even in this room or whether you're meditating or whatever. Yeah. It's, you know, otherwise it's like, you know, you're on your honeymoon and it's so romantic, and then you know, you look across the bay with the sparkling water and you think, oh, I'd like to go scuba diving, you know, and then, you know, in this romantic moment, you're looking over there thinking of the scuba diving equipment and what you're going to see when you go under the ocean, you know, and meanwhile, you know, your partner's finally saying all the words you've ever wanted them to say, but you're not even paying attention. You know, you're thinking about scuba diving. So, you know, pay attention. So where were we? Okay. So, you know, okay, I think next question.
Yeah, I have a question for, like, in the morning you mentioned about the 8 dangers.
Yes.
So there's one danger that strike me, because it's a trend right now, about the flood of attachment. Just now you mentioned about how to clear the wardrobe. I think a lot of people also know we need to clear the whichever things in our house, because the house is same size, but the things is getting more and more and more. It's bursting out from the house. So how can we do a practice, or how to guide me, myself, and other people to declutter the things?
Okay, you start with yourself. You go home tonight.
Yeah, because I asking for my mom. My mom, she hiding a lot.
Yeah.
The house because it's only two of them, my mom and my dad, and they
Yeah.
occupy the whole house, two-level house.
Yeah,
Like, it's
so you go
fully
home,
occupied.
Mom and Dad, clean up your junk. You know, when I was a kid, you told me not to have my junk all over, so practice what you taught me. You know, I mean, what do you think is the solution to decluttering? Have you decluttered? Yeah?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Can you force your mother and father to declutter?
I secretly throw their things.
Ah!
And they will secretly pick it back and put it back to the actual space.
I don't think they secretly put them back. You see?
No, they found it. Like when I chuck it at the back, that garbage bin, then my mom come back. Hey, this thing looks similar.
Yeah.
And she will grab it and put it back.
Yeah. So, can you accept that your mother likes to clutter stuff?
But
And
it
your
can give me problem.
It's a problem.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
Yeah. Why?
It creates like if let's say this thing keep in the cupboard for too long, right? It might create termites, some insects, pest problem, and like cleaning stuff also hard for them to do because they are quite old already. Mm-hmm. The cleaning machine that on the floor doesn't work properly on the floor because there's a lot of obstacles on the floor.
Yeah. Oh, this is terrible. My goodness. Horrible.
Yeah, they got like maybe like some box of items on the floor because you know like the sweeper machine they only works on the flat surface. Yeah. If there's a lot like cushions, the boxes on the floor, a lot of obstacles that
Really,
cannot work well.
This is terrible. I think everybody should go over to her flat and take all the stuff out. You know, what you're telling me is there's a problem and you can't do anything about it.
I find it's an attachment because she don't want detached from the things.
Yeah, and you're attached to having it look different. Right? Right? It's like, Mom, I don't accept what you're doing, Mom and Dad. This place is a mess. I want to live in a nice, clean place. So move out.
No, she threw the problem to me. Then I have to solve a problem. So I find...
What? She says to you, please sort through these things?
No, please clean up my stuff.
Please what?
Clean up my stuff.
Clean up the mess for me.
Okay, so you cleaned it up, you threw it out, then what's
No, but she don't accept.
Then you throw it out, then she doesn't like it.
She doesn't like it.
But she told you to clean it up.
Yes.
Well, you're stuck. How am I supposed to solve that problem?
I don't know how shall I do. When I see, that's why I relate. No, the attachment words that not catch my mind.
Yeah, but you're focused on your parents' attachment. You're not looking at your attachment. Okay? Because you want it to look different. And you expect them to change and do what you want. You know? And they're stuck in their habits. And if you clean it up, they're going to criticize it. So, you know, either you endure it or you move out. Because you're telling me there's no solution. You're telling me if you clean it up, they put it back. So then what are your choices?
Then I settle myself.
Yeah.
Let them be.
The only other choice is you light a fire. But I really wouldn't recommend that one. Okay? Because then you'll have even more to clean up. Okay, next question. Anybody brave enough to ask me a question? Yes.
I think a rephrase of that situation would be, what can we do about our attachment? How can we remove our attachment?
Exactly. Exactly. And so sometimes if it's like, you know, I really can't endure it, then you move someplace else. Or, you know, I can't endure it. Well, yes, I can. It's not that bad. It's just that they're junk. And, and I learned to live with it. It's not a national disaster. I really can assure you of that. What's interesting is that there are over 8 billion human beings on this on this planet right now. How many are suffering because her parents do this? Yeah. Anybody here suffering because of that? Yeah. There's a problem you don't have because you don't live with your parents. So how many people are suffering? Just you. Yeah? I did this with myself one time when I had a problem, which was much worse than your problem. And I just sat there and it's like, wow, there's over 8 billion, and I'm the only one who's upset about this. I think I'm inflating the importance of this situation. Drop it. You don't want to drop it. You want to make them change. Yeah, you have to send them to parents cleanup. Yeah, it's a new program. Yeah, $99.99 special if you enroll your folks now. Okay, I think we better stop now. What do they say? Quit while you're ahead? Oh, okay. Okay, sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much for taking the question, Venerable. You mentioned earlier this morning that anger also generates distrust. So
The karma?
Anger also generates
It's
distrust.
yeah.
There's also the opposite, though. Can distrust generate anger?
Yeah.
So there's such a thing
It
as...
can go both ways.
Right. So this language that's, I think people call it moral outrage. Moral outrage.
Yes.
And we have, in our societies, many dear Donnies in various costumes. And some political societies, they are silenced, even killed. And
The what is really?
they are silenced
Oh, yes.
and
Okay.
even killed.
Yeah.
And we are fortunate to be in a democracy where we're allowed to voice it, at least, or at least make jokes about it. What happens if we are in a system where there is so much distrust, we can't even joke about it. We have our hands tied. How to not let that anger, distrust, and outrage subsume us?
Yeah.
Can you offer some guidance on fortitude and to put up with it?
Okay. I did a lot of study when what do you call it now? In China in the 60s and 70s. The Cultural Revolution, thank you. When the Cultural Revolution was going on. And I thought, what would happen if I were there? Because it was like, I don't know how much you know about the Cultural Revolution, but it's like the whole country went crazy, and people were accused, innocent people were accused, they were killed, they were humiliated, and so on. And I asked myself, if I were born there and I was living there, okay, I would like to leave, but in those circumstances, you weren't even allowed to leave. Yeah. So what would I do? And I think in that kind of situation, where, like you say, you can't talk about it, you can't even joke about it, I would try and keep my mind well grounded in my own integrity, well grounded in my own morality, and I would hold to that and go forward with that and not get involved in the chaos of the society. You know, that's the best I can think of at the moment, what I would do. It's a hard decision. I often think, too, if I were born during the Nazi regime, yeah, and they were rounding people up, what would I do? Or if I was, you know, what would I do if I were a German citizen and I was called to be in the SS? What would I do? If I were a Jewish citizen, what would I do if I was told to go to the ghetto and live there when I know I'd be transported, you know, to a camp? So I would think about these things, you know, how would I apply the Dharma in those situations? And the best I can come up with is, you know, to not let my own mind go to anger. Yeah, to be able to have compassion for everybody in the situation. And the Dalai Lama tells one story of a Tibetan monk who was imprisoned for many years and tortured, and when he was finally released, he came to Dharamsala and met with His Holiness. And His Holiness said, what was the most frightening thing to you when you were imprisoned and being tortured? And the monk said that I would lose compassion for the prison guards who were torturing me. Whoa. Yeah, that person had a strong practice. And that's the kind of thing I would want to meditate on and really reaffirm in my own heart if I were in those kind of situations where there's really nothing I can do to change the situation itself. Because I think maintaining your own morality, maintaining your own integrity, that's important. Yeah, it keeps you from creating negative karma. It keeps you from adding to the chaos. Yeah, and it increases your virtuous qualities. So, okay. Okay, this is the very last one. Okay, I have another appointment at 5 o'clock, so I'm sorry.
Keep my question short. My question is not about my parents, but children. So I think earlier you mentioned about the concept of selfhood, and I was reflecting about the way I communicate with my kids. And I think a lot in parenting, we are always told to encourage our kids to give them praises. But yet now on introspect, I feel that sometimes it may increase their self-ego and make them more self-centered. So I was just thinking in terms of, especially when we communicate with younger children, how should we balance this between building their self-confidence versus, and not overly doing it such that it increases their self-centeredness.
Yeah, you don't want to say to your kid, you're the best one who's ever alive, you're the highest in the class, you're going to be president of the universe, you're the most, you know, don't go overboard with it. But tell them what they do that you appreciate, but also tell them how to use that quality to benefit others. Okay, so you want to encourage them and give them confidence by pointing out specific things that they do well. Yeah, and then encourage them also to use those abilities to benefit others. You know, like, okay, you spell very well. You know, C-A-T. You know, you've gotten C-A-T, and you no longer spell dog, D-U-G, you spell it D-O-G. This is really good. But you know, there's other kids in your class that have a harder time spelling. So, you know, you can play with those kids and make up some spelling games, or quiz each other, throw balls back and forth and spell a word while you're doing something, so that they don't get this feeling like you said, oh, I'm just tip-top and everybody thinks I'm great. Yeah. Oh, I need to add one thing to you. After I met the Dharma, I went home and I saw that there was a lot of clutter in my flat. So my husband had a whole thing of, I forget what the books were about, some kind of books, but he wasn't using them anymore. So I threw them out. Don't do that. Yeah. You have to, if you want to help somebody declutter, you have to ask them. Each article, can I toss this? Do you need this anymore? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you agree?